Hello everyone, welcome to this Sims 3 Plymouth Isle episode. So this is part of my Creative World series, and we are here on episode 26. And this is not what I intended episode 26 to be at all. I was hoping to have done what I'm doing right now in episode 25, but it took me too much time, so I had to push it back a bit. So what we do in this episode is completely redo the Ferry Terminal from scratch, and I'm also going to build a pet shop on the wharf, so stick around for that because it turns out pretty cool. And yeah, so what happened here with the Ferry Terminal, it's not that I didn't like the Ferry Terminal I made before, which was back in episode 13. So back in episode 13, most of that episode was dedicated to building the ferry terminal, and there wasn't really anything wrong with the ferry terminal at that time. It's just that when I was building it, the height of the wharf just kind of felt wrong, and I probably mentioned it in that episode as well, but it just felt like, I was building this so high up off the ground, and, I had to have like a ramp that went down to the, to like the waters, so like the ferry could theoretically dock and cars could drive onto it. And I was looking at the ferry terminal in Nantucket, specifically on Google Maps. Unfortunately, there's not really a good street view of that, so I couldn't really see anything besides just a top-down view, and there's no like 3D view there either, unfortunately. But it's pretty much just all flush, with the wharf that it's not really on a wharf, it's next to one, but it just didn't quite look like what I did, and I wanted to make it look a little bit more realistic. So with version 2 of Plymouth Isle, I lowered the whole wharf down significantly. So right now, that's great because all the marinas that I built last episode work perfectly because like the ground is at the correct level for like the dock to connect to it and for the boats to be at the right height in the water, and it looks right. And the problem came when I placed the ferry terminal I had made previously in version 2. It was, way up off the ground. It was like raised up on like a big hill, essentially, because I built it in the previous version where the ground was much higher. So I thought this is not a huge problem, All I'll do is I'll just go in and lower the ground back down. I'll rebuild a little building on there, a little ticket building, and we'll be great. We'll be all good to go. Well, it didn't work out that way because there was one issue, and I talked about this in the last episode as well. So, I guess this is more for people who haven't watched that episode. So apparently I learned that once you place down stilted foundations and then save a lot to the library, you're essentially making those stilted foundations permanent. I also discovered this on the port lots I was working on last episode as well, because I discovered I couldn't edit the stilted foundation on those lots at all because I had placed them in Creative World, before I exported the world. So either way, once you export or a lot, or you upload it to to your library in game to place it on a different lot, it basically merges those posts from the stilted foundation in with the lot. So I had built in the previous version of this ferry terminal, I had used a stilted foundation along the side for like the boats, and I didn't want it anymore because with the new one I thought, well, it's the marinas now, and then these boats are just exposed to the open water. It doesn't make sense. I want to get rid of it, and I couldn't get rid of it. And even if I wanted to leave it, I would need to lower it down anyway because of course, when I had built the lot originally, it was much higher up. So like the foundation, like the dock that I had built was like way too high up. It was ridiculous looking. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to redo the entire lot now from scratch, just because there was nothing I could do about getting rid of it. And while this was not my plan originally, I didn't really want to have to do this. I'm glad I did because I think that the newer version here of the ferry terminal looks so much better than the original one I did, because it matches better with what I want the wharf to look like. So there's no really grass on this lot at all, because like the whole point of the wharf is to look very man-made. So as you can see, it's all got the kind of stone kind of pattern there that's from Monte Vista. I've been using it on the other lots as well. I wanted to kind of differentiate it from the terrain paint I was using in the town center, which was also kind of a brownish color, but a slightly lighter color. And then I had it make more sense with the road itself. So you have like one way going in, and then it kind of curves around where the cars line up. Right now I don't have an exit yet, though don't worry, I will redesign it soon to have an exit because I did forget about that. But it has an entrance and an exit, and I do a much better job of the actual like kind of ramp that goes like the ferry would join onto. So it just ends up making more sense. Anyway, right here I kind of put in just some walls just to keep, cars and pedestrians away from each other, essentially. I also just use this very small kind of gardening fence. I don't really know what it's for. This very small fence. I made it white and yellow and used it for just like road markings, essentially, for like one-way arrows and stuff. This little area there I'm going to redo, like the area that goes out into the water for the boat. I do actually kind of suspend it above the water. You'll see what I mean when we get to that later on. But yeah, I mean, rebuilding this lot was a little bit more time consuming than I anticipated it being, because I assumed that I would be able to do it and then have this as part of episode 25, because, I had all my water-based lots in that episode. But unfortunately, it took me longer than I thought, and that episode would have ended up being like 50 minutes long. So I didn't really want to do that. I mean, even so, this episode is very long. It's actually, I think, the first Plymouth Isle episode that's over 40 minutes long. And the main reason for that is just because not only did it take me longer to build this than I thought it would, it also took me longer to build the pet store. And I was originally considering just making the episode just this lot by itself, but I wanted to make some more progress than that, so I decided to build the pet shop as well, which is on the Wharf. So it's going to go right next to the arcade, but we'll get to that, of course, once we finish this lot here. Now, the ticket building is a little bit different than the original one that I had built. It's 2 stories, but the second floor is not really used for anything. But yeah, it's pretty basic. Here I'm making an entrance and an exit, so cars that get off the ferry can actually exit, because I didn't think of that. But yeah, you can see here, very kind of seamlessly integrates with the road there. I quite like it. Kind of like a nice continuation of the road. And of course, this lot is completely decorative. It serves no purpose because, there's no real ferries in the game. But the reason I'm making it, and the reason I made it in the first place, is because, this is an island in the middle of who knows where, somewhere in the ocean, and there has to be some explanation for how all these cars got here, how all the people got here. If there's no, a ferry or no, boat dock, like a place for a large boat to dock, how the heck did any of these people or cars get here? And that's the reason I did this, because one of the things that bothered me a little bit about Isla Paradiso, the world that came with Island Paradise, that was a set of 2 main islands and a bunch of smaller islands. But of course that world had cars in it, but there was no place for those cars to have come from on a ship. You know what I mean? Or any supplies or food and building materials or whatever. It makes no sense. Because if you look at a real island, if you look at Nantucket, you'll see that there's obviously a ferry terminal, so they have ferries that come and bring people and things. So it just makes way more sense, and that's why I'm including this, even though it's just decorative. It makes sense, and it's also the reason why I included that port area, kind of object from Late Night in the industrial area of the world. Again, that's kind of more of maybe this is where they bring in more stuff in bulk and things like that. I mean, that's probably where they would bring I don't know, maybe that's probably where they'd bring building materials and things, through that kind of industrial port. But this is here for passengers to come to the island, people who are driving from the mainland, they can bring their car this way. It's just what makes sense. So here you can see I'm making the kind of, I don't know what you call it, ramp, I guess, that would allow the cars to get onto the ferry. And the reason I'm including it like this is because on Google Maps, the one in Nantucket had a little thing that extended off the ground into the water, or over the water. And, I imagine that this is something that they'd probably be able to, retract, bring in, there's probably one from the ferry that connects to this, kind of like a sort of place that this connects to the ferry. The best way I could make it look like it was like a movable thing that was like supported up was using these kind of post things that are from Showtime. It's not a perfect solution, but I feel like it looks kind of believable-ish, like it's kind of like the ramp. That was kind of what I was going for. Anyway, right now I just finished the roof in the building. Unlike the previous building, I decided to make this one just flat on the ground, no foundation, because, I'm building all the buildings on the wharf that way, so I thought it would just make it consistent. And inside, it's pretty simple. You just have a small waiting room, the front counter where you'd buy the tickets. It's very simple, very similar to what I did before. This one's a slightly bigger building than the other one, but the other building I had like this extra space in the front, and I made like a staff room or sitting room. I didn't do that here because it felt very unnecessary, since again it's all just decoration anyway, so I just didn't really use that space. There is the second floor, of course, so you could, if you want to, you can do that on the second floor. Of course, you can download this lot if you want to. This is lot number 1 in the world, so yeah, you can do whatever you want with that. And so here I'm just doing the kind of like little details there on top of the walls. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And I just gonna put some nice little lights on there, so just so it looks a little bit fancy. And there's also like the area behind the building is just kind of a waiting area as well. So there's going to be some seats inside, but then also some benches behind the building as well. So your Sims, they essentially it's designed so they wouldn't be able to get to like the boarding area without going through the ticket office building. So that's why it's that way. So you can see here, I'm just kind of adding some trim, kind of like some fencing around the top of the walls. The walls looked a little tall to me, but then I thought, that there should be somewhat tall walls around the edge so cars don't just drive off into the water. So I did leave it that way. And here I'm covering the building in the, classic kind of New England style, kind of wooden shake siding here, which works pretty well. And yeah, so using these windows as well, these are from, I believe, Hidden Springs, the windows and the doors, except for the small square ones. Those are from the base game, but I thought they kind of had a nice look to them that kind of fit the style here of the building. So yeah. And here I'm just going to touch up some of the terrain paint. There's kind of like this transition between the old kind of, stone and just the kind of, traditional asphalt there, which I thought, it's kind of like an area where a lot of cars are driving. They'd probably want it to just be paved over. But I also had these kind of extra areas out the front here that were kind of like these nice kind of public gathering areas. So I just kind of put like those benches there with like some plants in the middle. And I put some more benches on the other side as well, which you'll see. But anyway, there's the ticket counter. And I'm also putting in just some archways here that kind of just give access to various areas. It's also going to be, a men's bathroom, a women's bathroom. And I also have a gender neutral bathroom as well. So yeah, bathroom options. I think it makes sense to have public bathrooms in, a building like this, especially if, you have people waiting, like for their ferry. It makes sense to have it. And I also just kind of put these arbitrary ropes in, so it looks like it's kind of like a place to form a line there for tickets. And there's just some benches there for people to wait in. And here's the upstairs, which again, it's just free to be used in any way possible because it's just an open space. I just kind of left it empty because it really didn't need to have anything in it. And here, just putting in some lighting just around inside, so that's good. Also some details out the front, just some plants there. And some other stuff, I don't know what I do in exactly what order, but I do some details around the back. Like I put in a dumpster and stuff, but those are the benches there where your Sims can wait. And here I'm putting in the little entrance areas. So these are where your Sims would board the ferry if they're like not going by car. And, it's just also kind of based off the way the one in Nantucket is, although that one had like ramps, like kind of laying on the ground next to the entrance areas. Obviously those would be like put out to like make it possible to walk, or I guess a gangway would be the right word. Of course, I didn't really have a way of building that in The Sims, so I just kind of put these little bits of stilted foundation. Ooh, how scary. Stilted foundation. Can't edit it now. um, yeah, so it's very certain I wanted the stilted foundation there, because once I put it in and saved it to the library, I know I couldn't go back and change it in another version later on. So, it is how it is. But yeah, so those are like little areas your Sims would enter the boat. So, that's a good thing to have, I suppose. And next, we're just going to put in some plants here, just kind of in that little planter area. And of course, you can see I put the benches just kind of along the wall on the other side. I'm also going to put out some trash cans and stuff, and of course, some outside lighting, all those kinds of things. I also wanted to have some yield signs, because there is that one place there where you can see like where the cars are lined up and where they go into the ferry. It's a one lane situation there. So I kind of wanted a yield sign, so like the people driving off the ferry get priority. But there are yield signs in the game, at least in Creator World, because I have them like at every intersection in the world, but I couldn't find them in Bidebug, so I used these other ones from the store that have the red triangles. They kind of look like yield signs in some way. So those are kind of why those signs are there, if you were wondering. But yeah, here I'm just putting a planter and also putting some trash cans. Here I'm putting some details around the back. I was going to put like this boat in the water, but I didn't. But yeah, just some simple stuff. Also put some flowers there, flower pots. And I also put a dumpster back here just because, I guess, why not? I thought it was kind of fitting. Also like an air conditioner there and a like a fuse box, I guess, or like a meter box thing on the wall, electrical box. So yeah, just some details, and also just putting in some fencing here for like people getting on the ferry. They have to wait in line there, so it kind of has some order to it. But yeah, just doing the inside wall coloring right now, so it's pretty simple. It's kind of just like this light gray. You have the kind of trim around it though, kind of makes the building look older. I thought it kind of fit well with the style. And yeah, but it's a pretty simple interior here, but just getting the stairs in, getting the color correct, and also getting some lighting there over the ticket counter. Also some wall lights as well, and recoloring these benches here where your Sims would wait, theoretically. Also putting a couple more in as well. And we're going to do the bathrooms and hallway, I suppose. Those are kind of like the last things for this first floor of the building, but it's pretty simple. All the bathrooms are pretty much the same. You have the same wall colors and flooring in them. But yeah, pretty simple, pretty standard. I feel like I've been doing so many public bathrooms, so I've been doing all these community lots. So yeah, just kind of doing the same thing here that I usually do. Got your soap, got your hand towels, got all that kind of stuff. Got the mirrors in here. And yeah, I think also blinds. Yes, that's good to have as well. So putting in some blinds as well. And I think that's going to be pretty much it for the first floor. And here I'm just putting some little side railings there on these foundation pieces, these stilted foundations. So you just go flying off the edge there into the water. And yeah, just doing some more tweaks here. A lot of constrained floor elevation stuff happening. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that little area there. I think I do recolor these posts. They look a little bit more worn. So not like so shiny and new looking. But yeah, also a bit of terrain paint touching up there. Also, I think I just put a single line just around the front of the building just to be like, don't drive into the building sort of thing. But yeah, there you go. And I'm just going to do the upstairs now. The upstairs kind of has like this wood paneling on the wall. Kind of looks more like an attic, I suppose, even though it's just the entire second floor. And I also put in some like spider webs in as well, just to kind of make it look like it's kind of like a not really used area, which I thought would be kind of interesting to do. Kind of add some detail to it, even though it's just like an empty room. So I'm going to do that in a second. In but a moment, I guess we'll see here. Just put some details in, very basic stuff, but yeah, there's the spider webs. So there you go. And also just doing some more touch-ups. I'm going to just do like some of the stuff I tend to do, like putting, like black in the areas your Sims can't go. And, just I already put the wood under the roof, so that kind of stuff. But yeah, just also put in a few details kind of in the water, some rocks and stuff, touched up with the terrain paint, pretty basic stuff. But yeah, also some cones, and I think that's pretty much going to be it for this lot here. So pretty happy with how it turned out. And now we're going to move on to the pet store. And boy, did I have an experience trying to get this to work. So just so you're aware, I believe you have to have a limited edition of pets to have the pet store. From what I understand, I know that there was a whole thing back in 2011 with the pet store not working, and then EA accidentally giving it to everyone, but it didn't work unless you had limited edition. I don't know. There was a whole thing. I don't remember or know really what all the details are about that, but I have the limited edition of pets, so I got the pet store, which was one of the things, I think it was the thing that came with the limited edition, which was the pre-order edition, really. And essentially, it was just a thing you downloaded when you got the game. It came with a code, and you could download it from the Sims 3 store for free. And the code expired in 2012, I think. So, yeah, you can't really get it anymore unless you already have it. But essentially, it came with a pet store, and the store, the lot itself, used mostly pets items, but it came with some items itself, some unique items that only came with the store. And one of those was some of them were that door, for example, I just put in, but also the sign I'm putting in now, and the little cat sign on the wall. Also, most importantly, the cash register, the pets cash register. It's a very specific one. It's the pet store cash register. So I wasn't sure, because what I tend to do when I build these community lots is I look up on SimsWiki, what these lots have, what each community lot needs to have, or I just look at other examples in the base game just to see what's there, so I know how to build them, because I haven't built before. I haven't ever built a lot of these kinds of lots. I never built an arcade before. In the last one, I never built a pet shop before. I never built beaches before. I never built a library before, this project. Never built an art gallery before this project. So I had to go and look and see what needs to be, in the items specific, or what items need to be in the builds specifically. So yeah, with this one, it turned out you needed the cash register. You needed the pet store cash register. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. That's the whole point. Well, so I thought, I'll look at the pet store, that came, from the store, the Sims 3 store, the one that came with limited edition, to see what's in there, how to do it. I load up the lot, and the cash register has been replaced by a microwave, and all the items specific to that lot were gone. They've been replaced with other random things. It's that's not good. I didn't have the register in my game at all. I had the lot, but I didn't have any of the items that made it work. So, I have a limited edition of the game, and I got it in 2011 when it came out. I pre-ordered it, so I knew I was supposed to have these things. So I had to do some research, and there was really no definitive answer. Some people were just, go into, your game's corrupted. Go into your documents and remove the Sims 3 folder from there and make it create a new one, then reinstall all your store content and reinstall all your worlds. I am not doing that. I am not reinstalling all my worlds and all my store content and everything from scratch and putting back all my saves, and I wasn't going to do that. So eventually I found some forum post that said that they figured out that they had to uninstall the pet store and reinstall it from the Sims 3 store, which of course I'd already thought of that and I'd already tried that, but every time I tried reinstalling it would keep saying that it was already installed even though I'd uninstalled it, which was very annoying. So nothing ever changed. But what that person said is that every single item that came with the pet shop was a separate item in the launcher that you had to install individually. So that was fun to do. So I had to go in the launcher and I had to find every single item that came with the lot, and so there's the lot itself, and then all the items that came with it individually were just loosely in the game launcher, and they didn't have images to them. They just had little cardboard box icons, so I had to just know that was them just based on the pet related name, because a lot of them had pet kind of pun names. And the launcher, the way that it arranges your installed content on the launcher, there's just no rhyme or reason to it. You can filter by objects, which is great, but nothing's in alphabetical order. It's not searchable. It's you have to keep going one row at a time. It's so annoying. So I had to go through, and I probably spent an hour figuring this out in total, this whole solution, but I had installed every single item individually. then I went to my purchase history on the Sims 3 store where the pet shop thankfully was, and I reinstalled it, re-downloaded it, reinstalled it, and ta-da, everything was there. So, if you got the limited edition of pets and your pet shop doesn't work, that's probably why. So I would recommend uninstalling every single individual item. You'll find them all in the launcher, and then reinstalling it, and it'll work. So yeah, and again, I know that a lot of people probably don't have the limited edition of pets. They probably don't have the pet shop, or they might not even have pets at all. So I get that. In that case, you can still download the lot and just use it as decoration if you want. Your Sims can still visit. They just can't buy anything, But yeah, this I believe is on lot number 11. It could be 10, but I think it's 10. I think it's lot number 10. The correct number will be in the description, never fear. So you can, when you go to download the lot, I also put the lot numbers in the description as well, so you'll know where to place this. It's really right next to the arcade here. And, I kind of designed the building to match the arcade building in a way. It's a very similar looking building, as you can probably tell. They're not all the buildings on the wharf are going to look this way. I just kind of wanted it to, work out nicely with the one next to it. And also, like the arcade building, this is kind of like, it looks like two separate buildings from the outside, but it's just one big store on the inside. And, I do have one regret about the wharf, is making the lots so wide. I kind of wish I had just made them square, because then I wouldn't have to do this. But, it's okay. It is what it is. I'm not going to redo everything now. It's not going to do that. So yeah, it turns out pretty nicely. We have a nice pet shop on the bottom floor, and I believe what you can do with the pet shop is you can go in and you can buy like small pets, like lizards, or I guess they call lizards, yeah. And I guess you have like hamsters and stuff. I forget what all the specific ones are, or what they call them specifically. There's 4 different types of small animals. You can also get birds as well. So yeah, and I think that I don't know if you can adopt pets here. You might be able to. I have to be honest, I've never used the pet store a lot before, so I'm not 100% sure. But, if you have the objects to make it work, it will work. Anyway, there's the terrariums for all the little cute animals. And I also put in the bird things. There's like a bird tree and a bird cage. I also put in the dog houses out the back, and also the pet beds. Basically, I just placed down every pet-related item that I could find, and then I kind of dumped them all on the floor in the middle of the room here, and then organized it and recolored things. But kind of inspired by the pet store that, the original pet store that came with the limited edition of the game. It had like these kind of storefront windows, like these separate rooms in the front. So like as like storefronts, and I thought I'd do that. So I did that. I thought that's kind of cool. And a lot of pet stores will have like animals, like they'll have like dogs or cats in the front window. So I thought, that area could also be used for that too. I really hate that though. It makes me sad just like seeing like a dog or a cat just kind of in a little box there, like on display. But, it's unfortunately what they do in real life, but it's kind of mimicking that in a way, but not really, because I don't actually have animals in the front. They're just there's terrariums there and a bird cage, but they're empty, at least until I guess you put something in there. Yeah, I also put this plant in front of the front door of the second storefront there, because again, the front door is meant to be the dog one. So again, the same kind of idea as with the arcade is that this was originally 2 separate stores, and then like the pet store expanded and bought out the other store, and then they don't want people using the other front door, so they just kind of blocked it off. Sometimes you actually see that in real life where they have like a little sign on the door that says please use other door. Unfortunately there's no little sign in The Sims, so I couldn't do that. So I just thought I'll put a planter like right in front of the door. But and yeah, so I'm just doing some of the classic kind of wood cedar, not necessarily cedar, but like the wood shakes siding on the outside. Very New England kind of style there. Kind of muted, worn looking color there. And also I love the little sign up top, the little dog bone sign. Again, that came with the limited edition store. But it's not ideal location because if, of course, you're on the street level, you're not really going to see it all the way up there, but, I still like it. And there's also a cute little cat sign over the other storefront as well. So those were kind of cool. And I think the cat one is illuminated, actually, so it's nice. But anyway, on the upstairs of the building with the second floor is going to be an apartment. So I know that I have been saying I don't really want to keep doing these apartments. So I think this may be the only building on the wharf with an apartment upstairs. Maybe I might do another one, depends. But I don't think I really want to. So, it's just in this case, I think it worked well. I also, by the way, love this like wall paper that I'm using here on the freeze level. It looks so good on the freeze level. It fits perfectly, even though of course it's not meant for that. It just like fits perfectly. So I can have like these nice little green squares that match like the front door and the awning there. I don't know. It's just like a nice little detail I really like. But I decided to leave the dog bone white. I didn't really want to make that green either. I named this the Yellow Paw, pet store. I realized it probably should have been named the Green Paw because it's green on the outside, but I named it the Yellow Paw because of like the yellow horse like theme that I like to put the yellow horse object in most of my builds. So that's why I named it that. But now that I think about it, it should have been the Green Paw, but it's okay. And there is a yellow horse in this build, so don't worry. It's a pet store. It has to have the yellow horse. Although one thing I didn't really put in any of the horse objects. So like the pet store traditionally would have like all the cat objects, dog objects, horse objects, and then all like the stuff for little animals. I didn't put horse objects in here really, like the saddles or anything like that. I had like one little horse object I'm using more as decoration, because I don't imagine this being a world where you're really going to have horses. Maybe, but it's just kind of a small island, and maybe if it was a bigger island, I would have built like a ranch or something, a horse ranch, which I think could have been cool. But there's not really a good place in the island for that, so I decided not to do that. But yeah, and besides, I basically filled up this entire store with all the cats and dogs items and the small animal items anyway. Like, the size of this store was pretty perfect for everything, because everything just kind of like fit in. It's like exactly the right size, which is good. But yeah, here I'm making the two separate sides look kind of distinct. The flooring is the same, but the actual like wall material is different, like the door trim color is different and all that kind of stuff. So, again, trying to make it look like, it's kind of like two separate buildings, I guess. Yeah, so here I'm just doing some wall color stuff. Nothing too over the top, recoloring some doors and things like that. But I think I have the layout pretty much established of where all the things are going to go in the stores, or in the store, just one store. So yeah, and there's kind of like a nice little kind of back room area that really serves no purpose, but it's the way to get to the sales counter. So, that's good, I guess. But anyway, putting some lights there. I also have like nice ceiling fans. I think you want to keep it cool if you're going to have like some birds and animals kind of in the room, keep the air circulating. So yeah. And I also thought about fish after I finished the lot. I was like, ooh, what about a fish tank? I didn't end up putting a fish tank in because I don't think you can really sell fish here. You can't like buy fish. So it's like, I ended up putting a fish bowl in after I finished recording, just on the main counter. So, it's fish are there in spirit because it's a pet store. Pet stores tend to have fish, but yeah, don't worry. Fish haven't been forgotten. So yeah, and there's the horse. It's not yellow yet. Now it's yellow. Beautiful. There's the yellow horse, and also the little different colored dog leashes there, and the beds, all that kind of good stuff. And also just a rug there. So there you go. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the first floor, the main shop area. But I'm also going to do the bathrooms next. So again, pretty simple bathrooms. We have I think different colors, or maybe they might be the same color. Oh, they're different colors actually. I think this one's kind of orangish, and then the one's bluish. Whatever. Just having fun with it. But yeah, again, pretty simple bathrooms. Again, more public bathrooms. So many public bathrooms. So just putting those in, getting in some sinks there. These bathrooms have counters though, so that's fancy. And also getting in some stalls there and some sinks and stuff. So yeah, there you go. Also some blinds, of course, and the normal details like the soap and the paper towels and mirrors, of course. And yeah, So I think that's pretty much it for the pet shop. We're going to move on to the apartment pretty soon as well. The apartment, again, just for decoration. While the pet store does function, the apartment does not. It's not a place your Sims can actually live, because this is a community lot, but it's just meant to be decorative and kind of make the building kind of look nice. So yeah, it's pretty simple. We have a little kitchenette, again, like all the other apartments I've done, all the other decorative apartments. There's no oven or anything or microwave, because you can't have those on community lots. So again, it doesn't really matter. It's just decoration. So yeah, pretty simple kitchen there. Got your fridge and your little trash can and some tile on the backsplash. This is actually a larger apartment than any of the others I've done. It's actually a 2-bedroom one with 1.5 bathrooms. So yeah, it's very fancy. And you have like a nice little TV cabinet there, with your living room area, little dining table, and just the entrance. The stairs are actually on the outside. I don't know if you noticed, back when I started building the lot, I had them on the inside, but then I kind of resized the building and there wasn't really good room for them. So I actually ended up putting them outside, which I quite like the look of that. And it kind of matches the arcade building, which also has exterior stairs as well. But that building also has interior stairs. This one only has outside stairs, but it works fine. That's how you get to the second floor. And this apartment has 2 balconies, actually, one in the front off the living room and then one off the master bedroom that overlooks the marina, which is pretty cool. So yeah, here I'm just putting in the curtains. It's pretty simple. And yeah, it just has some pretty basic, like kind of off-white walls inside. It's nothing too crazy, but yeah, just putting in the curtains and stuff. I'm going to recolor some things as well, of course. Or actually, I think, did I already recolor everything? I guess I already did. But putting in the rug. So there's a rug and also a runner there in the hallway. And what else? Just some stuff in the kitchen. And yeah, this is the master bedroom here. So it has the balcony access there, which I think is pretty nice. And just doing some recoloring of the bedroom. Kind of has like this green and kind of brown, or kind of like caramel color, color scheme going on. But yeah, pretty simple bedroom, pretty decent size though. And it also has a closet, of course. So does the other bedroom. They both have closets. I like to just have that. Again, it's all decoration, so makes it look more realistic. I like to have that. And yeah, just putting in some stuff in the bedroom and also the closet. And yeah, also this bedroom here, the second bedroom. So yeah, this is just a single bedroom. And it's pretty simple. I didn't put too much in here. It's just got, just a bed and a nightstand and a dresser. I didn't really over detail it because it's really just not that important. But yeah, so that's it for the bedrooms, and we'll just do the bathrooms. And then I think just a few more details before we're going to move on to the screenshots. So I hope you stick around for the screenshots. And of course, you can download either of these lots, or both of them, whatever you want to do. There's links in the description below, along with the lot numbers as well. And of course, you can download the world as well. There's a download link in the overview video, which I believe is linked in the description, most likely. So yeah, so you can check that out, and you can download the world and place these lots in yourself, of course. And I will be having a version of the world with all the community lots included once I finish them all. I keep getting asked this like in every episode. I keep saying it every time. I will be releasing a version of the world with all the community lots included once I finish them. So, just hold on. It's coming. It takes some time, to finish it off, to get all these lots done. But anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, I'd greatly appreciate it if you consider subscribing, and you can check out the other episodes on my channel. It's a whole playlist. And yeah, we're just going to do some final things here, just final details, just wrapping it up. Some lights in the attic here. That's just kind of inaccessible, and also painting the areas here black as well. And yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just some more details. I think I'm getting the timing wrong here, which is pretty typical. I seem to always get the timing wrong with the end here. So, just bear with me. Don't worry. Just doing some ceiling stuff there, getting some wood ceilings in, looks good. And also a bench on the outside as well, just for some detail. But that's pretty much it. Bye, everyone.